Hello friends I made this for. Welcome back to my channel if you are already subscribed. If this is your first time being here, hi, hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Lauren. I currently live in Philadelphia. I'm an artist, tarot reader, Reiki person, astrology fan, and art ritual facilitator. Today I just wanted to do a quick dive into the very powerful transit happening this weekend. So as you may or may not know, lunar Beltane is on this Sunday, depending on where you are in the world. And it is a total lunar eclipse with the moon in Scorpio, full moon in Scorpio. The sun is in Taurus, our nodes are in Scorpio and Taurus, and so this season of eclipse season that we are in, this is going to be closed out soon through this eclipse, but we will be revisiting these same things that came up 6 months from now. So this is a good time to take a moment to pay attention to what's going on around you, or even what's not going on, what's missing, what's not happening for you is just as important as what is happening around you, right? So with today, I'm only using the Morgan Greer deck, and I'm only using the Death card in the Hierophant because since the sun is in Taurus, we have the Hierophant, and with the moon going to be in Scorpio, we have Death. So these are the two energies I want us to focus on today as far as as teachers around this most auspicious time. If you enjoy what I have to say, make sure to ring that bell, subscribe, whatever, comment, like. Your call, baby. I'm not going to force you. There's also links down below to my Kickstarter for my coloring book, which is very witchy. My Patreon, which is all about art as ritual, and all sorts of other things. But you're here for a quickie. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about where the sun has been. I have a whole video about the Hierophant. I'll link that at the end. But with the Hierophant, with Taurus, we're going to kind of talk with a broad brush here. So Taurus is a indicator, is the container for the flame that was Aries fire, that spark of life, if you will. From this spark of life, we need an earthly source for it to sit in, and that is our Hierophant friend. As being the first earth sign of the astrological wheel, with it being this grounding force, this very physical force, we might see changes in the physical world. Now, one thing I don't want to get into is Bitcoin, talking about those sort of things. I'm going to talk about things in more of a personal way, where they might be personally showing up for you. This might be showing up with this eclipse season. Some people might be making connections between the food shortages that we're experiencing, that contraction, right? We see a little bit more contraction in these areas of our life depending on where eclipse season is hitting. So, for example, when the eclipses were in Capricorn, Cancer, opposition, having those energies worked on, there might be structures changing in the home. There might be structures changing in our family dynamics and relationships, right? So with this, we see a physical embodiment of some very real world implications. And with the Hierophant as the representation of Taurus, we are invited to see this energy as a very spiritual container. So one thing that I've seen people discuss is that with this shift, with the nodes being where they are, and of course where the nodes are is where our eclipse season is. With these nodes, we might, in this eclipse season, we might be noticing more pull away from spirituality. And that might be very true. But I don't think it always means like throwing out the baby with the bathwater. If we look at the Hierophant reminds us that we can be that source of spiritual wisdom. We don't need a preacher. We can embody the spiritual enlightenment. We don't need the Pope. We are our own religious authority. So the structures that we see in a religious sense as we connect to God in whatever way that means, of course, that could be the universe, spirit, Allah, Christ. That's your personal relationship, right? But we see the fingers going up. That is that connection. We see that a lot in the tarot as like a divine source connection, which is really beautiful. And so with this Taurus season, we're being asked to be very practical, right? With Taurus energy, we want to be a certain level of practical with our physical surroundings. But what does Taurus look like when the moon is in its opposition, being Scorpio? Well, it's an interesting story, isn't it? We almost can see these two characters as reflections of each other. And one thing that I think is really great in the Smith-Rider-Waite deck, we can see that in that deck, if it was here in front of me, it's not, I'm sorry. We would see an actual Pope in this picture, in this image. In the most classical depiction, we see the bringer of death in front of everyone, whether it's a child, a Pope, a woman, a man, a they, them. All are equal in the face of the unmovable death. Now, what do I mean by unmovable? I mean, death comes for us all. It's not a thing we can just leave. And with Scorpio, we are being asked to, what's the wording I want to put? We are asked to sit in a space of liminal movement, of compost, of rebirth, of death, life, rebirth, the cycle that does not end. Honestly, death and Wheel of Fortune are very similar to me in that these are powers outside of our control. We are moving with the ebb and flow. And I like seeing these two together because one, we see very similar color palettes, right? Totally different ends of the spectrum, but truly very similar in their own way as well. And why is that? Well, the Hierophant is the physical embodiment of God's voice, right? And this is the spiritual embodiment of God's voice as well. Think of it as almost God's will or the universe's will, giving the space for change. So, what does this mean for us in this eclipse season? Well, Scorpio is a lot of dark, deep water. When I think about the water signs, and I've talked about this on my channel before, Cancer is the surf. Pisces is the deep ocean. But Scorpio is the open sea. There is no land in sight. But we are still in this space of the in-between. We can see the depths below, and we can see the sky above us. We are floating in that space of total possibility. We are experiencing the most luminous void. Sometimes this can be shadowy. Sometimes this can feel very secretive. but it's just expansive. And when we think about this death card, this bringer, this harbinger, we see death with the scythe and the rose. The rose, remember, is a rose that we saw earlier in this journey with the Fool. The Fool is almost always represented, or well, maybe not always, but in classic interpretations, represented by that white rose. And we see that white rose again as a symbol of this is part of the Fool's journey. This is a reminder that we can either go with it or get dragged. As we are embodying our ideology, as we are taking stock of our very physical world, it's important to embrace what doesn't need to last. I've seen a lot of astrologers talk about this lunation being extremely potent and extremely harmful. Maybe a lunation that hurts a lot of people. Or by that, I mean, doesn't feel as positive as most full moons do. That will really depend on where this lands in your chart. But what I want to leave you with, what I want to really instill for you, is the desire to allow the composting to happen. Maybe that means some of our belief systems need to die. Perhaps it means that we cannot hold on to certain structures that felt really supportive, or maybe we just feel like we don't have other resources that we should in the moment. But with that said, what do you think? What have you been feeling around this moon? What's coming up for you around this moon? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I love you. I hope you're doing okay. Hope to see you on either TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all the things at Subnormal Child. I am Subnormal Child. I hope to see you again next time, to connect with you wherever that might be. And please take this lunation easy. Don't try and do some crazy wild shit. Don't try to do any ritual. Allow yourself to rest and to be in the waters. As I said with this card, with Scorpio being the open sea, allow yourself to float and be guided to the lands where you will rest your head and come on the other side knowing that Spirit has sent you to where you need to be for the next 6 months. Bye-bye.